I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. Before we get started, I want to welcome everybody who's here with us today. We have an FLDP class. They've just gone through, was it last week or the week before? Days are running together now. Their school session, in which Dr. Gretz, myself, Miss Caitlin Harlow-Berner, some color commentary from both Hayden Parrish and Jennifer Valentine describe the school system and especially as it relates to mental and behavioral health. And so we welcome you here and it's nice to see everyone. Also, just if you'll forgive me some exposition, but also obviously last night was election day, and so we welcome Mr. Reed as an observer, obviously, and next month we will celebrate as modestly as she is inclined Ms. Johnson's tenure on our board, and then welcome our new members accordingly in January. So thank you all for being here and congratulations to anyone on the ballot. We look forward to working with you all. Next up here is a certification of closed session. Ms. Kreitzer, if you don't mind. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Key,
Yes.
Mr. Fulton,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes. Mr. Superintendent, are there any closed session actions to come out of our session?
There are, and I recommend the board approve as discussed in closed session student discipline cases 11A through 11E.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. We accept the student cases as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 5-0. We're now on to the adoption of the agenda. Is there any motion to accept as presented and or do you have any changes for tonight?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented this evening.
I'll second. Thank you so much, Mr. Key. All those in favor, or I'm sorry, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have an agenda for tonight. We're now on to the consent agenda. We have the approval of the prior minutes, review of monthly claims, and approval of personnel recommendations. Is there any of those that you would like to be pulled before we vote on them?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. Thank you so much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0. Thank you so much. The consent agenda is approved. We're now into public comments with a 2-hour maximum. We invite all those from the community, whether you're a native or whether you're a resident, employee, have business in front of this board, et cetera, to come forth and be heard. We ask that you confine your remarks to 3 minutes and that you don't address any particular board member. And on a personal note, just to be kind to one another. Is there anyone who'd like to come forth and be heard? There's 2 on the list. Oh, okay, please. Yeah, you don't have to be on list, and sometimes the sign-up sheet back there is confused with a sign-in sheet. So please come forward if you're so inclined.
Good evening, I'm Whitney Johnson, Talifero, working in district. I'm 1626 Cloverdale Road. I just wanted to congratulate all those that were on the ballot, and forgive me, I'm a little ill, so I won't be staying tonight, but I just wanted to just bring something before everyone. I'm sure everyone is aware of it, but I just wanted to state it myself. In June of 2022, the U.S. Department of Education launched a National Parents and Families Engagement Council to facilitate strong and effective relationships between schools and parents, families, and caregivers. And I kind of vaguely fit into one of those categories, but just wanted to go on the record saying that, I would like to see Fluvanna put a little bit of extra work into that area and involving our parents and families with what's going on. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forth and be heard? Seeing none, I'm going to close the first round of public comments. There will be a second round later in the evening after most of the business is finished. Thank you so much. We are now on to, in 8 minutes, I will need to double back to a public hearing for the fiscal year 25 budget. So we're gonna continue with our normal agenda, and then at precisely 7 or as close as I can be, we'll come back to that. In the interim, we're on to presentation 9A, establishment of the community representatives to serve on Learning Resource Review Committee, first review.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Board members, there are 3 attachments, and we can look at all 3 through the course of this. This is to offer you an opportunity to have a discussion around the potential of you establishing representation from each voting district on a special committee that would serve to review learning resource challenges. And this is in response and in association with the recent challenge of several books. Your current policy, KLB, calls for a committee, and it names the committee members. There's the principal, librarian or librarians, a teacher and or student, and your policy says if applicable, and then the complaint. And that's in your policy. The policy calls for that committee to make a decision about whether the challenged resources would stay or be pulled. And that decision is then appealable to the superintendent or designee, and then ultimately appealable to this board. So you have considered the possibility of amending this policy to name a special committee that would work alongside that committee. And again, all this is open for your discussion. I'm trying to capture the different things that we've discussed and that I've heard. Some considerations with the current request that are maybe not typically associated with other challenges of learning resources, is that this one has garnered a lot of public attention, obviously. It was made in public and it's gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of public attention that specifically is potentially very controversial. And so whoever serves on this committee is going to make a decision and potentially be the subject of a lot of public discussion and or maybe criticism. So as you've been thinking through that, I've worked with the board attorney to give you a draft amendment to your policy that would enable you to name a special committee, or essentially each one of you could appoint somebody from each voting district to represent you and your voting district in that process, to work alongside that committee. Some things for you to think about. Well, I think the first thing for you to consider is whether you want to amend this policy or just leave it in place as it is. You can certainly leave things as they are, and I think we just would be naive to not understand that the people that serve on this committee just need to understand that in this case, maybe not in past cases when challenges have been made and maybe nobody even knew they were being made. The committee met and made a decision. In this one, they just need to understand that they could potentially be the subject of a lot of public attention. If you do want to amend it and you want that representation, then your policy needs to be amended to reflect that. Your advisory committee policy needs to be amended. And you just need to understand that if this committee is named, the work of that committee, because it becomes an advisory committee to the board, becomes subject to FOIA. And because of that, any meeting that they would be associated with to discuss this would need to be noticed and open to the public. that may or may not be the way you intend for this to be handled. I've got some more to say, but let me just stop there and ask for questions or maybe some comments. You may want to discuss some things at this point, or I can keep going.
Also, a new addition is a member of the school's PTO, is that right?
That's right, as the parent, yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes, sir.
it was from advice of the attorney that school board members should not be on this committee. Or not necessarily.
No, I don't believe the attorney advised that, because it's appealable to the board. I think you just need to understand if a board member serves on it, then you couldn't be a part of the appeal. But, I don't think the attorney said that.
Well, I'd like the opportunity to recommend somebody to represent, my district. I think that'd be a great idea.
I agree.
I actually, we talked about this 4 or 5 years ago and I asked Mr. Winkler to do this exact same thing and we didn't have the support then to do it. So I'm glad that we have the support now, I think. And I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a good idea to get people involved in the committee. Help make this informed decision.
So it seems like we're in alignment in terms of spirit and the text here as it's recommended to be revised. Let's talk a little bit about the process through which they would be appointed.
Well, that would really be up to the board.
Mhm.
The one thing I do want you to understand, just think through.
Mhm.
Because there are a couple things you can do. If you just simply name this committee and you can see, Dr. Stribling, if you can pull up the amendment to KLB. So it's got the attorney strike throughs there, but essentially it adds this as a committee that would be part of this process every time. And so
Every time a piece, some material is challenged,
that's right.
as opposed to a standing committee.
Well, it'd be a standing committee that would serve as long as you would want them to serve. You'd have to decide that. But it would only be associated with these challenges. And I just want to make sure that it's not a concern. The consideration I just would have is not that the board, the process wouldn't be secretive in any way. It's not secretive now. But I don't want to take for granted that while this challenge was made in public, and I think those involved in the challenge would be fine with this process maybe being public, every parent with a concern may not necessarily want to be associated with something that's going to be foiable and open to the public. There could be a mom or dad that would come in and say, I saw my child reading this. I really don't like it. I don't want to be on Facebook and I don't want everybody to be a part of this meeting, but I'd like you to review it. And so with this policy, that wouldn't be an option. It's going to be open to the public, period. Whether the public would come or not, I don't know. You could make, so there's a form associated with this. We already have a form, but they've amended it to go along with this policy if you accept the revisions. You could leave it up to the complainant to ask for this group to be activated, or you could just simply say, we want this group to be a part of the process, period, every time.
And I think that's
I
a
just want you to think that through.
great time to take a quick thought break. We can mull this over while I open a fiscal year 25 budget public hearing at 7 o'clock. So at this time, we're going to invite anyone who would like to come forth and be heard as it relates to the fiscal year 25 budget to step up to the microphone. Same process as before. We just ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to come forward and be heard?
Getting it closer to the mic.
Do you not have public remarks? You are entitled to them. Thank you so much. All right, hearing none, which is not uncommon. I'm going to close the public budget hearing. Now we'll resume where we were with 9A. So any thoughts as it relates to kind of how socialized and public this committee's work might be, and the necessity that any challenge then be part of the public discourse?
Why couldn't they simply write an email or make a presentation? And this book is problematic. Can your committee please review it? Why does it have to be?
The parent.
I mean, I guess someone could go as far as to FOIA request who sent the email and all that, but I mean,
They could.
and I understand why they might not want to be want their name out there, but they wouldn't necessarily need to come present themselves to the committee.
Depending, right now you have the complainant a part of the process. Now, I don't think that means they're compelled to be a part so much as they're invited, so.
I like the way it's structured to make sure that complainants are completely familiar with the material that they're challenging.
To that end, could we pull up, please, the form, the request for reconsideration of learning resources, so that the public can see what we're referencing? Gotta admit, it's a bit alarming to see myself on video here. Apologies as I wince. But so we have a form here where the individual would fill out their name, address, etc. And then below, there's a set of 6 questions. And it's a little difficult to read. So, did you examine, review, or listen to the learning resource or presentation in its entirety? 2, have you discussed this material with school staff who ordered it or who use it? Yes, no. If yes, please identify the staff person. Are you aware of evaluations of this material by professional critics? If no, would you be interested in receiving this information? 3, and there's a strike here, so I'll read the recommended revision. Describe what prompted your request for reconsideration of the material. Please cite page numbers and/or specific information from material to support your concerns. Parentheses, attach additional material if necessary. 4, does the general purpose for the use of the material as described by school staff or in Fluvanna County School Division's program objectives seem a suitable one to you? If not, please explain. 5, what actions would you like to see the school take regarding this material? And the options are: do not assign it to my child, the school should reevaluate the material, or other. And then 6, are there other materials of the same subject and format that you would suggest for consideration in place of the material? Yes or no? And then a signature and date. And then for that to be returned to the school principal. And so I think that brief departure was in relation to a comment that you had made about the form here. So that is the process through which something would be challenged, and then ultimately, then the workflow would go to a standing committee if we're inclined to adopt this.
So, yes, sir. Dr. Stribling, if you could pull up the KLB one more time and just focus in on number 2. Right there. So the process, and the attorney revised this, they struck through the complainant. You don't necessarily need to do that. I think they may have understood that maybe this committee was taking the place of that. You can leave the complainant there, or you can make it available to the complainant, but a review committee consisting of the principal, school library media specialist or librarian, classroom teacher if involved, representative from the school's parent-teacher organization, division instructional supervisor, and members of the school board's Learning Resource Advisory Committee. This is that new committee that you would be appointing. And then again, if the board wanted to continue to include the complainant, certainly can.
I honestly kind of like that the complaint is struck. I think that if we're gonna have a committee and we're gonna have our experts in the room, that it makes sense for the person to say, why don't you take another look at this, and for the independent body to then evaluate it. Is it possible that this committee should be meeting with some regularity so that it doesn't need to spin up or call a meeting every time something is flagged? And rather, if anything is flagged, then with a monthly cadence, if necessary, they meet. And if there's no complaints, then they just don't hold a meeting.
I'd rather go by the assumption that our librarians are capable of choosing the instructional material. And there's not a problem until someone suggests there might be.
I don't understand. Is that, I feel like that's counter to having a committee. Is that what you're saying?
Now, I'm saying having a committee without a flagged material,
Mhm.
I think that does not support our librarians' decisions of what they're putting in the library.
But doesn't that then mean that we have to like form a committee ad hoc every time?
My
something's challenged?
understanding is this committee exists annually. And it meets when there's a challenge to any material.
So if I could, let's go, Dr. Stribling, to BCF. If you could open that. This is a separate policy that establishes advisory committees to the school board. And you can see, so in the first paragraph, last sentence, these committees serve without compensation for 1-year terms. So you've got the CTE committee, the wellness committee, capital improvement, the CIP committee, gifted advisory, ed tech. And then we would be adding in policy this learning resource advisory committee. So this would be a committee that's appointed for a 1-year term. Per this policy, it would meet when the form was filled out and that group of people were enacted. It would include this committee.
I think my consideration is around cadence, like if a complaint comes in on a weekly basis, do they need to meet weekly in order to evaluate them? Or what's the parameters around there?
Well, right now, theoretically, we haven't had that, but anytime a form is filled out, the committee would get together to review the material on the form. One came in every week, we need to handle them as we can. I'm not sure that all those people would be available every week, but
I would leave that decision to the committee. If they typically get one a week, they might want to meet once a month and do 4 at a time. But I would leave that up to them.
Further considerations around the revision of the policy, the form for complaints, et cetera.
In addition, I'd like to see on the form, on number 5, what action would you like to see the school take regarding the material? I'd like to see added removal of said material. I mean, that's not on there, that's not an option, so as it stands right now. Do you think so?
Isn't that what the committee would recommend if they found it appropriate?
It does say other.
Yeah,
You
Well,
could
I
write
think the
it-
distinction here between the first two is like, let's say it's Romeo and Juliet and, you know, place crazy, right? You got lovesick teenagers, you got fake deaths and real deaths and suicide and fighting. And if you don't think that you want your kid reading it, cool, you check the first one. And then if you think no kid should read it, you check the second one, right?
that leave it up to the school to reevaluate the material. That's what the
Right.
second thing says. It doesn't say anything at all about removing it. My other might be completely different than your other.
I think I'm missing the point.
Yep, I believe so.
Would you
Then
like to
it
help
does
me
ask for
come
an
to the?
explanation of.
Yeah, add or removal of said material. The number 5. That's what I'd like to see.
I'm
That's
fine.
pretty simple.
I think it's implicit, but fine enough.
so the other thing I would add is it sounds like you're probably in agreement, but if you do decide to move forward with a committee like this, if it would be helpful, I'd be happy to send something out to all of our families, just notifying them of this and some kind of survey to ask people to indicate what voting district they're in and if they're interested. And I could give you all that list and you could choose from those people, or if you have another way of doing that, you're welcome to do it. I'm just offering that.
What does the policy say now regarding someone brings some type of material forward? Does the policy say it's removed until this committee can meet and evaluate it?
It doesn't.
I think it should defeat the purpose of reviewing it.
Did
I mean,
that this time. That's what I'm saying.
I think that's problematic in some ways, right? So like, let's assume that you don't like sex ed, you believe it belongs at home, and there's a book with graphics as it relates to the reproductive system, and you're like, I want this removed. I don't think it's appropriate for any kid to have sex ed.
We do that now by law.
What's that, sir?
We allow people to opt out from that well
Yeah.
before the program.
Right, but your suggestion that anything that is challenged should be removed immediately.
Well, that's why we send a letter out ahead before the program so that they can be removed immediately prior to the program.
I think you're missing the point. Just hold on a second. So if we remove a book the second it's challenged, then that suggests that if somebody challenges the sex ed book, that we'll have to remove the book immediately.
I mean, if someone brings a challenge forward, just like we did before, we pull the books until we can review them. Correct?
That's what we did this time. It's not per policy. It was a decision that we made.
I mean,
It's not clarified in policy.
I also think it assumes that
you-
immediately that any challenged material is bad and shouldn't be in the hands of children.
to some extent, I see your point, because some people could just get in this fight over, well, they pulled that one, let's pull this one, and I don't like that subject, and it just goes back and forth. And
Right, so my point is just like, okay, we have a committee, they're gonna review it, like. Give the committee time to review the material and make a recommendation, and then it has appeal processes.
the problem I do have is, before this was even brought up at the last meeting, there were books that we privately pulled that did not go, I mean, we literally called and said, hey, check out this book. I just got notification that this book is on the shelves, and it was pulled immediately. And in theory, if you wanted the books removed, that was probably the best option for doing it, because now we haven't made it a political thing. Now it's printed, these books were a given, like they can't be there. And
I'm not sure I'm familiar with.
there
that
were several
particular case.
books over the past couple years that we have pulled off the shelves in the library as soon as we discovered they were there.
To be fair, like if somebody says, hey, there's X, Y, or Z book and there's one copy of it and Dr. Gretz gets a complaint, he's gonna take it off the shelf to read it. So
That's
inherently.
exactly what we did.
So inherently, it's getting pulled while it's being reviewed.
That's exactly what happened. That's my point, is that should happen. If there's a book that Mr. Gretz says, yeah, this can't be here, we shouldn't wait for the
But
committee.
that's the committee's job. That's why the committee is being formed, isn't it?
Yeah, some of these books are sexually explicit. And some are worse than that. And the books that we pulled off the shelf prior to this even being an issue, there was never a disagreement then in taking those books off the shelf. So the point is if there's something that he feels, I don't think this should be here.
So then why have a committee? Why not just have the superintendent do it? I'm not
Because
really
the
understanding.
committee should probably review the book. You want to leave the book up there for whoever to check out if it's that problematic. And would you just leave it up there for the next 30 to 45 days until the committee can meet?
But that would be a good alternative. Hold it while the committee's reviewing it.
I mean, what if someone goes home and fills out 3,000 forms to pull all the books in the library? You just
Well,
gonna
that's
pull
what I
them
was
all?
saying. That's why I understand your point too, because someone could do that.
Right, so I'm saying we have a process. Why wouldn't we let the process, if we're gonna adopt this and let the committee and form a committee for this, why wouldn't we let the committee do their job? And how many of our books in the library do we have multiple copies of anyway? And inherently, if a committee's gonna read it, it's passively gonna get removed just so they can read the book.
So something I just want to add to this conversation, it's related, but not, it's just related.
Okay.
So to be clear, I'm not going to unilaterally just remove a book, but by the same token, our librarians, I mean, part of their job is to review materials and they make decisions about what comes in, and if they see something that they think should go out, I think they need to have the freedom to do that. I think we need to be careful not to say that if our librarians see something that they believe was put there at some point that isn't appropriate, and I'm not saying they do or don't do this, but they don't necessarily need to call the committee. I think they continue to have the flexibility to do their work. This is in response to parent or community challenges.
Can you set a time frame that it will take for the committee to get together when it's a challenge? I know.
Honestly, I don't know.
I
I mean, I
that was
think
my
probably
argument
so,
about
but
having a.
having never
30
done
days
this, I just don't
fair.
know how. Yeah.
That's the concern, how long it might take for the committee to be formed and start when a challenge happens.
I mean, and further, to be honest, like, it's gonna take, it takes people time to read books. Like, if you challenge a book and it's 600 pages, it's gonna take a little while for people to get through it. So it's not like just having a meeting doesn't actually solve and provide nuanced discussion around a text, right? I'm not trying to be combative. I'm just trying to make sure that like the process itself is clear and that we're thinking through these things. And I understand the considerations. I just want to make sure that we're aware of the externalities or like what follows from these decisions.
We can always make improvements as we go.
Good point.
So far, I've heard that number 5 on the form should be, the school should reevaluate the material and or remove it. Does that suffice?
In
That should be
addition to
an
what's there.
In addition to what's there, so another mini airplane that says this book should be removed.
Well, that is the form that a complainant fills out to turn into the school. It's not the committee
Right.
filling this form, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I just semantically, I just don't understand the difference between reevaluating and a recommendation to remove.
You don't understand that?
Ye-
Reevaluating or remove it.
What's that?
Reevaluating or remove it.
I mean, isn't the purpose
Two
of filling out the form to ask them to remove it? Maybe it's just a really good book and I just want the committee to read it.
That's funny.
I don't know. Pay me the big bucks for comedy. So another mini airplane with this committee should remove it. I certainly don't object. I just think it's semantically the same. And then, does anyone want to codify some sort of cadence for the committee itself? With regards to how often they should meet or ultimately how it's called?
I'm told that they typically convene within 2 weeks. Up to this point.
I'm inclined as Ms. Johnson to allow our experts and especially those that are on the committee to help guide this and that perhaps on a first meeting, they should come up with some sort of standards of how they work together and allow them to be autonomous on this.
That's pretty much what we do with the other named committees.
Any further considerations? We'll see this again during action items if we're inclined to move forward. I believe, yes.
I think it's a good solution.
So it is, it's
Mr.
an
Pullen
action.
looks pensive. Did you want to add anything?
No, I'm good. I just, like I said earlier, when you make it, when you handle it privately and like we did in the past, just, I even brought a couple of books, but I said, listen, I don't want to read them. I want to take care of it quietly. And then it doesn't bring all the community outreaches and come in because it doesn't, the appearance from some people is that we're banning books. And I don't think anybody here is suggesting that, but this book thing becomes so political.
Yeah.
So I just hate that it got that way.
Right. I think the point is that, and I personally super object, and yeah, that's quotable, super object to the fact that like someone could indicate that they don't believe that books that have gay characters or people who are struggling with identity or people who are dealing with abuse at home or kids going through their own process, any of that if that's objectionable to you as a person and you don't believe that your child should have it, there's a difference between that and saying that that it's not appropriate for any children. And so if we just like went to a library and plucked a book every time that we think that it's inappropriate, then what we're doing is we are censoring and banning books. It's the same thing. If somebody is an atheist and is like the Bible shouldn't be in a library, we're just gonna go and pluck it. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so either we trust the judgment of the librarians to evaluate the material in and of it, like by themselves, or we form a committee to do that. But allowing individuals to carte blanche decide that their own morals or ethics should be applied to everybody else makes no sense to me.
I don't disagree with you. I just think the problem is when you, even to some extent, I won't go into detail about the 2 males and 2 females. I won't go into detail about that. But some of those things in a kindergarten or first grade book fair are inappropriate. I mean, I don't know if the kindergartners are reading about homosexuality in literally at 5 and 6 years old. I mean, that's kind of inappropriate. And then
I guess I'm confused. Are there not children who have 2 moms or 2 dads? Are there not
Absolutely.
other children who are curious about why someone has 2 moms or 2 dads? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
but again, I don't see how that benefits the library, how that benefits, I mean, it's just controversial, and I don't know why we couldn't just handle this the way we were handling it before. And now, I mean, the committee will be fine, but it's just, and then some of these books weren't even checked out for years. So how long does it take you, if this book exists, how long does it take you to find the book? I mean, it's just the
I
whole
guess
thing.
my argument is if it hasn't been checked out for years, then what's the harm in a committee reviewing it for
I know.
30 days?
I know, I'm just saying that none of it's perfect, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of books in the library. And they
That is
come,
something we can agree on.
and they come in mass. So, one librarian can't read every single book that comes in and review every single word of every single book for, some of these complaints we got were a paragraph or 2 in a book that was hundreds of pages.
You know, Sharpie it.
No, but my point is one librarian can't read through all that material
Right.
and then review it periodically.
Uh-huh.
And then maybe find the one section. It's gonna be a evolving process no matter how we decide.
I don't know why we're so darn scared about the needle on a haystack that hasn't been checked out in so long when we have a review process. Like we can review it or we can censor the options. And like, I just don't understand the bias to censor. If we believe the experts and we believe that a committee can do their jobs, I just don't see the harm in allowing them to do so. I don't, if we're just gonna pull some off the shelf, why bother with the committee at all? And
No,
to be honest, why not shutter the library?
I'm not disagreeing with the committee. I'm just thinking that I don't think it meets anybody's end. You know what I mean? Like eventually it's
No,
gonna
I'm
be,
baffled, actually.
it's gonna be an ongoing thing for years and years and years to come. I mean, it took people years to check out one book to discover that it was an issue. It's gonna
Right,
be
and I'm
ongoing.
saying then what's the rush?
I'm saying it's not gonna give people the satisfaction that they want.
I'm not worried about short-term satisfaction. I'm worried
I'm not
about
either.
kids having access to books and even books that challenge or expand their horizons. I don't understand why we want to limit it. Like, I just don't know what good is served by just like getting a complaint and pulling a book off the shelf. Who does, like, that's just that assumes that somebody who challenges a book is 100% right all the time.
I'm pretty sure we've already established that they would meet within 2 weeks, right? I mean, we already covered all this. My
But you
point,
literally just said, I don't understand why we need a committee. We can just go take the book off the shelf. That's what
Not
you've been
what I
arguing. It is what you said.
I literally just said it's gonna take so long for a committee to review these books as people can find one and complain. I never said that people should make a complaint and pull the book off the shelf. I said, pull it off until they can review it.
I think you said, why don't we just do this the way we used to do it? and
No,
just
I
take
said
The book off the shelf.
What I'm saying is when we had issues before and it wasn't a political fight, it was either a yes or no. And now it's become what we see now, and it's gonna be left versus right. My opinion versus your opinion, rather than just reading the book and saying, yes, this is explicit, shouldn't be the school.
Do you have a solution other than a committee that includes members of the community that'll?
No, this is what I wanted. I'm absolutely recommended this 5 years ago. This isn't a problem that just happened at the last meeting. This has been an issue for years. We've brought this up over and over and over again. I'm glad it's happening. I just don't, I want people to understand. It's not gonna fix, you can't just come here and read the book and it's gonna get pulled. This is gonna take, if there's a book in there, it may take years for someone to find it and say, they might want to fill out this form and complain on this book. So if they're on these websites looking at all these books, like the same way they found the books that they brought at the meeting last time, that's the only way for someone to know what books are in what libraries. We might not even have them. They did like a national database of books.
Right, and that was certainly the case before, but what's the remedy? A standing committee to
don't-
read every book?
No, I mean, it's gonna take time. If there's a,
Right.
you know, if there's a, and if the book doesn't get checked out, no one will ever know about it.
Yes, I'm saying I don't see the problem with any of that. Like,
I'm not
if
saying.
nobody checks the book out, then there won't be a complaint
I
and a kid
understand.
won't read a book. Isn't that fundamentally?
Yeah, I'm not in disagreement with you. But the people that want, remove these books, it's much more complicated than that. There is not gonna be a removal of books. It's, you may not even know the book exists, that's what I'm saying. You're not gonna get we passed the committee, these books are gone in 2 weeks. That's not gonna happen. That's what some people may want, but there's a process. And I think it's a good process, or we'll work on it, but it's a good process.
I think we should be comfortable with being uncomfortable and like, yeah, it will take a complaint for a book to be reviewed. I don't see a problem with that.
I think we're literally agreeing.
Right. You seem concerned about other people who want books off shelves being unhappy with the process.
No, I'm explaining that you can't, it's not gonna happen over, if what they want is that, then this is the process. That's what I'm saying. And it's not gonna be this board's not gonna just make a decision and pull the books. There's gonna be a process and it's gonna be a community involvement.
Sounds pretty just.
That's what I'm saying. So. And I like, as I said before, I regret that it became a political thing rather than just a yes or no.
Well, I think we have forms in a policy that we can agree with. In terms of process, do we want Dr. Gretz, should we pass this? Do we want Dr. Gretz to send out a survey where individuals can volunteer and indicate their address and or voting district so that board members may review and select representatives?
Why couldn't we just each individually pick our own representative from each district? People that we know or would recommend, instead of Mr. Gretz being involved in it.
Everyone else happy with that?
I think it's important to send a survey out to let the community know about the new committee that's formed.
Maybe we could send out the information, but have people just contact their representative
I mean,
and not lay that on Dr. Gretz's lap.
so I think that a consideration around that is that if that's the case, you're gonna get, some odd 100 emails potentially, whereas if people were to do a form, then Dr. Gretz could just send you the list of people from your district, and then that's easier for you to just get a sheet. But if you're inclined to the bulk emails, then we can do that too.
The
Either
only-
which way.
Only question is, sometimes it's hard to figure out what district people are actually in. Like, I just saw a guy that lived on South Boston Road that voted in Kent's Store. And I didn't realize that it literally went all the way to South Boston Road.
I saw someone show up in Palmyra that should have been in Fork Union.
Yeah, and then I asked him, are you sure you're supposed to be here? And he wasn't quite sure either, so. If someone emails me and says I live on, now I gotta call the registrar, see where they live, or what district they're in. I mean, I don't know who they are.
So do you want direct correspondence or do you want a survey for people to be able to volunteer for this?
I'm happy to do a survey and just hand you the results. I can also build the survey such that you all receive the results.
If you're being appointed
way.
to like the planning commission or something, you would send something in and then they would distribute that to the members of the board of supervisors. If you're gonna appoint someone to something similar to
And
that.
once you appoint somebody, we're happy to go and do the research to make sure they're in your voting district as well. However, we can help.
So this isn't, so this is the process. We really just need 3 people to say they want it to be done one way, and if we ultimately adopt the policy, then that'll be the how we get it done part. So,
I appreciate Dr. Brett's help and that would be fine.
I'm inclined the same, just to make life easier for us and logistically, and to save our phones from all that extra data uses that used to be the case.
You certainly get calls as well.
I'm confident we will.
I didn't want to add anything else to your load, but
Understood.
however you want to do it, I don't care.
No, I'm happy to do what the board would like.
Further conversation on this item before we, we'll get more discussion before we ultimately vote on it. But if we vote accordingly, then Dr. Gretz, please, and thank you for alerting the public and giving them a place to volunteer. All right, we're on to 10A, reports from the superintendent.
Okay, board members, so there's several things in here. I'll just call your attention to a few. We've been working with some community members on information related to our athletic expenditures, and so we have updated a report that has been made to the board before. It's the finance athletics. I think it's the second one down, Dr. Striblin. We can go through this if you'd like us to, or really we're just presenting it to you as information. This has been provided to those community members that have asked for it. And so we thought it'd be good to have it in the packet so anybody can access it. It basically just goes through our different activities and it shows the expenditures related to each sport. And I just wanted to call your attention to it. Don't have to necessarily go through it. We made it available to some, so we wanted to make it available to everybody. And I'm thankful to Mrs. Gillum for doing that. So in the report, you know, we have the All In initiative. So we're in the process of designing tutoring and small group instruction to try to meet the needs specifically in reading and math for grades 3 through 8, per the governor's recommendation. So we've got that underway. In addition, we're considering using some of those funds to hire outside tutors. We've had conversations with people with backgrounds that we think could be beneficial to students. Some actually in the FLDP program. And so we're thinking through how to do that in a way that makes sense. We have attendance specialists advertised. As you know, we're using the funding that we've been giving through this program to hire 4 of those that will be focused on improving attendance and establishing relationships with families where there's habitual attendance and truancy. And in addition to that, and I think maybe the main focus of the report, certainly if there's anything in there you want me to drill down into, I can. We have Sam Irby with us tonight. You know that we have had an RFP out asking for proposals from health insurance providers. And so our consultant, Mr. Irby, is here tonight. He's going to present some information to you and entertain any questions that you have. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Irby, and Ms. Gill, if you have things to add.
Well, I just wanted to say that we sent the solicitation out. We got the bids back last week. Mr. Irby and I looked at them initially. And then he's been spending the last week really going through those in detail. Our plan at this point is, we're giving you an overview tonight, but we really need to meet with you in either groups of 1 or 2 to go through the details of what we received in those solicitations. One of the issues that we have is we have some pretty high cost claims right now, and that's what's really driving the cost of the insurance. It's not really the fees associated with the TPA or the reinsurance fees. It's the claims and how they're running right now. There is a possibility that because what they were looking at was really last year's claims and what we have for July, August, September would be about it. And so as the year continues, it's I think they're giving us a worst case scenario, if the claims come in lower, then the cost could actually go down. It's just strictly driven by the cost of claims. The other things that we're talking about is self-insured versus fully insured. We don't have a local choice bid. They don't have to follow procurement, so they don't have to turn it in at a certain time. And initially they had told Mr. Irby that they'd get it to us like the third week in December. And I said, well, you can call them back and tell them if we don't have it by the first week in December, then we can't consider it. Because we have to know by the end of, we have to notify Jefferson Health if we're switching plans by the end of December.
So you need to really be prepared to make a decision on this in the December meeting. And that's the reason why we want to meet with you individually to really drill down in the details between now and then, so you're fully prepared.
And she pretty much covered. But what I will add to it, the Jefferson Health Program is a consortium. Jefferson Health is a governmental subdivision, so they run the plan. So it's not like a profit type operation. And it spreads risk amongst all the entities that are in the consortium. So that helps you as well from self-funded perspective. The one thing that they do have is a 6-month requirement of cancellation that you have to let them know, and that's why we're going to try to push this through December and say, here's where we are. What y'all prefer? How would you like to pursue this? I will say that everything this far ahead of a July 1 renewal, they build in a lot of trend into it. And your claims, as Ms. Golden said, have been running kind of hot. You know, they've been running a little hot right now, which is pretty normal to have your claims kind of do this and come back down. So I really do feel like if we look at everything here over the next few weeks, and you look at everything, you say, well, let's go in this direction, or let's go in this direction, then we can renegotiate the rates after the first of the year on up until probably in February, and keep watching claims and hopefully get it to come down a little more. Right now, the nice part about what you got going on, it is a double-digit increase right this minute on paper, but because of the RX rebates that you get, that brings it back down to a single-digit increase. So it does help. But as she said, and as I said, I think you will see the claims subside a little bit, and that's probably going to improve everything as we move forward. We do have several proposals from different third-party administrators right now. You're dealing with third-party administrator on the benefit plan administrators, but we've got several other TPAs that we got to bid on this as well. When we send it out, we ask the insurance companies and TPAs both to bid. So we've got a lot of things to look at in detail to try to drill down and say, okay, this looks pretty good. We also have to figure out whether the company or the TPA that you're looking at, whether they can perform and do the job that you need to get through that. So you kind of got to vet that. My recommendation for one thing would be probably as we kind of eliminate and say, okay, we like these two, or we like these three, probably get them to slip in real quick and do a basic finalist presentation to the administration, or, you know, a couple of y'all, a couple of them, then let you kind of say where you feel like you are and what you think would be preferable for you to do come here.
And like I said last time, BPA has, I guess the best term is say bought out by WellNut. So after, they're not really doing a mid-year transition, so to speak, but July 1st, it's not BPA anymore if we continue with that. So Jefferson Health manages the finances of our self-insurance plan, and BPA is the TPA. Those are two different things. And Jefferson Health will allow us to have any TPA that we want. And so we don't have to use the WellNut that purchase BPA, we can pick another TPA, which is part of what we put out in the RFP. And I think we're all in agreement that we've had some concerns with BPA, and there are some other TPAs out there that are larger and may be able to provide us better customer service. Or I'm gonna say will provide us better customer service than we've gotten recently.
Do we have any guarantees that WellNet won't operate BPA as a wholly owned subsidiary so that it's just a different name and not a different service level?
I'm sorry, ask that question again.
Sure.
I'm not sure
So-
I understood what you were saying.
We're working with BPA. WellNet bought BPA. I've been part of plenty of mergers and acquisitions, and at least for some length of time, they continue to operate just under a new name, but it's still the same people and process. Do we have any guarantee that they won't just continue to operate as is? Are we entertaining a WellNet?
Right, no guarantee, but
Uh,
from WellNet's posture that they have taken, I think they intend to kind of take over and change it. They've actually offered to change to January 1 if you wanted to, and pull you over to the WellNet platform, which is coming out of Pennsylvania. That's a problem. That would be a very difficult thing to do. Everybody have to have new medical cards, and it just would create a problem. I think you definitely want to just tough it out until July. We're going to vet WellNet as well as the other TPAs and the other insurance quotes that we got. We're gonna look at all of it and try to give y'all the pros and cons that we see based, across the board with each one.
And Dr. Gretz and I were of the opinion, because when I talked to WellNet, I said, we've had lots of problems and this is not, a turnkey thing. And they offered to do the new insurance cards switch us over January 1 to their platform. But our concern was that we had, at that point, and still haven't made a decision that that's where we would continue to be. And what we didn't want to do was some people got new insurance cards in July, then give people new insurance cards in January, and then potentially give people new insurance cards in July again. And so we were like, that is just too confusing. And we want to just, if we know that we may switch, then let's just wait until July 1 and then make that change clean versus this kind of transition in between. And you guys all know, I mean, it drives me crazy when I go into the doctor's office and they're like, get your insurance card. I'm like, go back to the car. So I don't want to do that. And then it lends itself to lots of issues on the back end.
On the service side, makes it very difficult.
For sure. I'm just concerned about, what was the old expression, putting lipstick on a pig?
As are we, which is why we're vetting it.
Very much so. Yeah, we were headed out to bid before we knew anything about this merger.
And so you have some sense of what we're getting back in terms of pricing. Can you give us a just broad strokes range of increase that we're seeing right now in the RFPs?
I would say it's ranging from about 7.5% to 12%. And all of it, keep in mind, it's all run off of your claims. It's exactly what's going on. When you're self-funded, all you're doing is paying admin fees to the TPA, and they're processing your claims. So the claims is what drives it. For instance, Fluvanna maybe pays in $7 million a year total, let's say, and that's not the correct figure, but it's somewhere. Of that, your admin and reinsurance is less than $2 million. It's $5 million worth of claims. So when you talk about this, most of your increase is in the claim side, in the projection, expected claims. Well, those claims may not happen. So if they don't happen at the end of the year, you haven't given that money over to an insurance company who's not going to give it back. You've got that money still in the check to help you prepare for the following year. So you're paying your actual cost as you go.
The other thing that we're being real cognizant of is just some of the devil in the details. Like we know before we had issues with lasers. Since we've been with Jefferson Health, we don't have that issue with lasers, which means if we have a claim that's over $125,000, we only pay $125,000 and we don't pay what's on top of that.
Sorry, she's describing what a laser is. It sounds awesome, but could you say it again so the class can hear? It's less awesome than it sounds.
So a laser is if someone were to have a high cost claim and the insurance company the next year when they're bidding will look at it and say, I know that Brenda's gonna be going back to the doctor again because she's been diagnosed with cancer. And then and we know that it's probably gonna be over 125,000. They establish what's called a laser, which they could say is, for me, $300,000. And then we then have to pay 300,000 of it before they kick in. Our current plan is we have no lasers. The maximum we pay for any person is $125,000. And we pay for the claims, but then we get refunded by the reinsurance carrier. And we do have some of those, and we have some of those in October already. So that's was my concern when we first started looking at this is, are there lasers? Is there potential for lasers in the future? Because Jefferson Health has said there are no lasers and you're not going to have them in the future. And that's because they're in this big consortium that they can share that risk.
You also referenced, and sorry not to dive in too much here, but you referenced sort of short-term trend impacting our current bids. Is it real short-term trend unique to this year, or is it just the cyclical nature of when people ultimately go and see the doctor?
It's more of a short-term trend.
So unique to this year as opposed to like broad trend?
Yeah, I think what you're gonna see here, I think when we look back 6 to 8 months from now, and we look back, we're gonna find out you just had a spike during a 2 or 3 month period and kind of went away and went back to the normal, what's kind of normal as far as claims go. Our trend right now is running 11-12%, medical trend is. So what that means is the cost of healthcare, like if I go to the doctor tomorrow, they are renegotiating their contracts every year or every other year, and they're wanting raises from the insurance company. So the actual cost itself is running a little higher than normal as well. So the insurance companies, of course, taking that into consideration.
So Ms. Kreitzer is going to reach out to you guys with possible dates and times that we can meet.
I think it's on your desk.
And we're happy to take as much time as possible to answer those kind of questions, to go into the details of each plan. Any of those things that you might have questions about. And then when we come back in December, we'll need you to make a decision in terms of, we're either going to tell Jefferson Health we're not going with them, and select another carrier, begin that process, or we continue with Jefferson Health. Regardless, we'll have to select a TPA.
Right, and beyond that too, self-funding, you don't get your final rate until about 120 days prior to renewal. So what we're looking at right now is this is what we think it's looking like based on what's come forward, and now through September, but now we're gonna take another look at it through December and come forward with, well, the claims have improved a little bit, so that's gonna drive the actual cost down or whatever the case may be.
And that's what used to happen back when we had local choice. I'd meet with them now and they'd be like, well, it's gonna be 25%. Then they'd come back, we think we can get it down to the, and then a couple months later, they come back and go, we're gonna give you a rebate and we're gonna leave you down to this. The difference with that is they're rolling the dice on where your claims are gonna be. And if they're coming lower than they thought they were, they keep that money. If we're self-insured and they come in lower than we thought we'd be, we keep that money. So I do think our fund is fairly healthy right now. And I feel, I mean, you've told me you save money in the long run if you can afford to be self-insured.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a long-term thing. You're gonna save 5 to 10% long-term. That means.
And for the class, how long have we been how long have we been self-insured?
I think 5 years now.
And this board is probably the reason why it's still in the black, because we've had to put some lump sum payments in historically at the end of the year before returning money to the county in order to keep us in the black.
Well, and what we've done the last couple of years is we've just basically zeroed out our health insurance budget. So we budget the amount that we're told, and then the premiums and plan selections and all of that change how much actually comes out. Because I mean, you know, we have turnover, 20, 30 new people come in, the plans change.
Yes, so your cost is bouncing every month too, based on how many.
Somebody has a baby.
And how many of the RFPs that we're getting back are fully insured versus self-insured?
We've got one fully insured quote and then like it's 4, I think, 5 self-funded options.
And we don't have local choice yet.
Right. And that's kind of a semi-type self-insured arrangement.
I have a general question. How much does it cost to have a baby now? I'm just curious.
You don't want to.
Added one?
Frankly, I don't know, because it's been a while. But it is more than it used to be.
Yeah, it's probably running 15, 18,000, and that's just, yeah.
But that's not what the out of pocket is. With the out
No,
of pocket's pretty, the out of pocket's not cheap either.
And of course, the insurance companies now negotiating, your networks negotiated a lot, so it drives it down like money.
15 to 20 then. Thank you.
But it's nice to get them into this world.
Any other questions that we can offer now? Obviously, we got some digging in to do. Do you need us to take a vote on this in December, or is it
Yes.
more consensus? It's a vote. And fundamentally, we really just need the up down as to whether or not we're going to continue to give notice. If we have a couple of candidates that we're interested in and are confident we won't go, do we still have time to decide between them?
We have to tell Jefferson Health by the end of the month, by the end of December, whether we're gonna continue with them or not. So
Sure.
my short answer would be, we would have to make a decision.
On that, but not necessarily, like if we prefer two candidates, but we're undecided between them.
Yeah, if we were gonna keep Jefferson Health and look at different TPAs, we could do that. Or we could, but if we were saying the difference was between Jefferson Health and another
Right,
company.
certainly we need to make that decision. in December.
Yes, that you're, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's assume you just say, okay, we're not gonna stay Jefferson Health. Then your other options are still open past December 31st. But if you say, we definitely want to stay Jefferson Health this year, then you would be picking the TPA, but you don't have to pick the TPA by December 31st. You pick that January, February, March. You have plenty of time to do that.
And had y'all come for the December meeting, we'll really get in it.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much for being here.
Excuse me. So unless there are other things in my report that you'd like me to go deeper in, that's really all I wanted to highlight for you.
Anything else from the superintendent's report? All right, if not, we are on to VSBA policy updates.
Okay, board members, many policies that you have. I'm gonna do my best to summarize. But as always, we can go into any of these. Most of the changes, I think, are semantics. They're continuing to change just pronouns and things like that. What you'll find is anywhere there's some code language that's changed. So anywhere you see nurse practitioner, that's going to become advanced practice registered nurse. And so any policy that was impacted by is in here. The other is Dr. Stribling, if you'll pull up JCDA, or sorry, Mr. Gifford. The fourth one. I hate to even talk about this. GCDA, yeah. Again, this is code language. Anywhere you see, so for example, in the paragraph in A, offense involving sexual molestation, physical, sexual abuse, rape of a child, you'll see that that language has been changed to add or the solicitation of any such offense. So again, any policy that involves that language is going to be listed in here as a change. And that's the only, it doesn't really substantively change the policy at all. And then these, Josh, you don't have to pull these up unless board members want us to, but in GCE substitute teachers, we've been limited in the past. You can only have a long-term sub for up to 90 days. For this year and next year, they're extending that to 180.
Is that fair to the substitute teacher?
Well, they don't have to stay in there that long. It just gives the school board, it gives us the flexibility to keep a long-term sub in place if we need to.
So it would be more of a qualification problem? Because of course they won't get benefits or anything.
That's true. No, they still would be a long-term sub. They'd be getting a long-term sub rate. Right now,
Yeah.
what some divisions, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Actually, according to code, if they work over a certain number of days and a certain number of hours, they are entitled. to
that's true.
benefits.
Ever since,
And so we do a
24.
look
Changing
back.
that to 180, right?
No, we do a look back period, so even if we had a sub, but they were never a long-term sub, but they came in and subbed every day, they end up qualifying for benefits.
So we're not making that, with this change, we're not making that limit 180 days.
So it's allowing
Like the
long-term
benefits.
subs to be in the classroom
So
180
the
days.
idea is we can't find a qualified teacher. We're doing the best we can and they
Yes.
can do it for as long as we need them.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
And we have people that are qualified to teach, but would prefer to be a sub than to be than take a teaching contract.
Okay.
And could you remind us what we pay substitutes and what we pay long-term subs and if there's a difference? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm gonna do my best, but somebody will correct me. $100 a day for a sub for a professional staff.
Mhm.
It's 90 for like IAs, and it's $225 for a long-term sub. I think that's right.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. At this point, I think I'm fairly predictable, so apologies.
That was my only question.
Okay. Policy GCL, professional staff development, it adds some specific training for people related to the new Literacy Act. IL, the testing program, just adds that parents are going to be provided with results. And then JEC, school administration, there's some procedures. Again, this is legal language that's changed. Some rights and some procedures related to students of federal employees, specifically armed forces, foreign service workers, and that's per one of the most recent House bills. Everything else in there, I think, is just semantic. We can discuss anything that you'd like to.
And so this is first review. They
Right.
will be in action items next month. And so we have 30-ish days to review, ask questions and debate when we see them next. Anything else on this one? All right, we're on to the SLEP MOU. That's Dr. Gretz, or sorry, is it Dr. Gretz or Stripling? Thank you.
While Dr. Stribling's coming up, this is the memorandum of understanding that we update periodically with our sheriff's department for the school law enforcement program, including our SROs.
Good evening, board. There it is. This is an annual MOU that we work with and partner with the sheriff's department. There are no changes from last year. We also post this on our website based on code requirement. It is a first review, so if there are any questions, I can try and take those now. If there are questions that come up, I can take those to Captain Hill and Sheriff Hess, and Dr. Gretz and I, Ms. Gillum, will review with those if there are questions needing answered.
A little bit off topic, I'm sorry. Could you tell me the difference between the school resource officer and the other type of?
SSO.
school
SSO.
officer?
Sure, school resource officer is employed by the sheriff's office and collaborates with the school through the MOU that gives us guidance on that. School safety officer, the other big thing is that school resource officers are armed and a law enforcement officer, so they have arrest power. School safety officer, not armed, more for, there's a stage or a level where school resource officers are up here, SSOs are right here, they handle different, they have different responsibilities and roles that don't go to the level of an SRO.
And they're, the school safety officers are our employees.
Yes, they are.
School resource officers are the sheriff's employees.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is there language in the MOU specific to how those two should interact, and or should we be adding that so that they're in the
Not-
process?
Not in the MOU, but Captain Hill has a very in-depth and robust template of how that process works, SSOs. This is for between the sheriff's office and Fluvanna County Public Schools. The SSOs fall under our jurisdiction or human resources and would work directly through us and our policies and procedures.
Mr. Striblin?
Yes, sir.
Currently, we have a grant covered SSOs, correct?
Yes.
How long will that last? 2 years?
I want to say 4 years, but I want to clarify that for you.
Then after
Three
that-
years and then the 1 year. Do you remember?
I can look it up.
I'm not sure.
I'm
I
not
seem to
sure.
remember 4 when it was presented, but
4 sounds right, but I don't want to sound right. I want to
And
be
then
right.
after
So
that, it'll be absorbed into the budget.
if that's what the board, school board chooses to do, yes, sir.
it's not an automatic thing. Like we vote on a budget every year.
I'm no different than I was before. I'm still not supportive for a couple reasons. The restorative justice part is just absolute no for me. And I'm pretty concerned with the relationship between the school resource officer and the SSO program. I think we need to clear that up.
Okay,
So
noted.
that's where I'm at with it.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to elaborate as to why you don't believe in restorative justice? You don't have to. I'm just
I
curious.
mean, it'd be the same argument we had this time last year, so I don't know that we need to do that again. We disagree on it, obviously, and I just don't fundamentally don't believe in the restorative justice model.
The other thing, if I could, Dr.
Yes,
Striblin,
sir.
is to add about this, and this is, certainly not trying to poke a bear, but anybody who is interested in just this whole structure and how the roles and responsibilities are defined and who does what and who's responsible for what, it's all in this document. And I think I would just encourage people that are interested to know who works for who supervises who, how that happens. In here.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
It's a 4-year grant cycle.
Which our school resource officers, are either of them on, I know one of them's on a grant, correct? State grant,
The resource
one of the resource officers.
I think both are, Mr. Bull.
Sure.
But guess what, we're down to one. How does the grant work out when we're down a school resource officer?
They talk
They
about the high school,
typically,
they put another one.
they go through a personnel process, hiring process.
It doesn't, I know that, but it doesn't have any, we don't have any issues with the grant itself, being that we're down.
Not at
Usually
this
it's a
time.
reimbursement
all right.
process where you reimburse payroll. that you pay.
Okay, that makes sense. So if there was a separation for any reason, it wouldn't be any different. Okay.
I did forget to mention, as I hear a bit of an echo on myself, but it's not bad right now, that we don't have microphones any longer. And that's a new microphone, and these screens are obviously new, and so we're still getting used to it. I'm hopeful that people at home can hear us okay, but just if you hear anything funny, we're still getting used to it. Ms. Gillen, looks like you were on the hot seat for a while.
You're gonna have these high def cameras. I'd like a makeup budget.
I think we're gonna need a dressing room, so it seems.
Ooh, Lord. So for fiscal year 23, we've turned in our turnover or carryover request to the county. That was submitted last week. So we're just waiting for feedback on that.
And that is inclusive of both the population study
Mhm.
and then the remainder to go to the Carriesbrook.
Yes, yes. And
Or Central, sorry.
sure, and we have 57,000 in outstanding federal revenue that should be being processed this week. We finally got the approvals. It's just, it takes a little while to go through the queue. But that doesn't change what the carryover balance was. We've already factored that into to what the balance was. Any other questions about 23? Be excited to not be living in 3 fiscal years.
Get down to 2 here shortly.
That'd be great. So 24. So this is where we are in terms of 24 at this time. The payroll is the biggest expense. It's, you know, high 70s, low 80s for payroll. I'm continuing to monitor that. We've had some pretty significant needs in terms of students with special needs, and that's driving a lot of this budget. Really just things that we're required to do, and then looking at how the funding sources for those. We have a fuel contract and allowable gallons, but I am monitoring that because we're probably going to go over the gallons that are in the contract, because now we're full on doing field trips and all of those things. The other thing that gets factored in is we have more buses that are gas versus diesel, and so that's a different cost. And so looking at all of those things together as well. Any questions that you have relative to fiscal year 24?
So what happens when we go over the contract amount? And I'm been hearing too many silly news stories about predicting weather and suggesting some accuracy as to indicating it's a colder winter this year. Do we have does it get renegotiated as a separate contract? Do we get the same rate?
Usually they give us a different rate, but we don't, usually it's whatever the market rate is at that time. Well, in all likelihood, we'll increase the gallons, just looking at what our usage now. It's more to do with gasoline than it is with diesel. But you know, just kind of looking at those things, that one is particularly a moving target, and we're always trying to. I think we got a really good price this year. I feel good about that. It's just the gallon usage and just kind of being mindful of that. Trying to think if there's anything else. Luckily, we're locked because of the solar, we're locked in on the utility costs, so those don't fluctuate. So that's always good on that side. But we do have a couple schools that run boilers with heating oil, so. On the second page of this, I have a list of all of your supplemental appropriations because that gets super confusing. Sorry. Didn't mean for that to happen. Those are your supplemental appropriations that have been approved at this point. And then we have a couple of other career and tech ed grants that will get added in there that went to the Board of Supervisors a couple weeks ago. We have done the ordering for the rescue squad mannequins. They haven't come in yet, but we placed the orders for those items.
I've been told when those come in that we'll get emails about visiting the class, and they're happy to show us what they look like and how they use them.
I don't have anything else with 24 unless you have questions.
Onward to 25.
So you don't have a lot in your packet. You got the health insurance update. This is your budget calendar that I put back in there. I will need a January seminar date, and I know that's a little tricky because we have some new board members coming on, but we are gonna need to set a date, so I can ask Ms. Kreitzer to do that at another time, and I have some unavailability in January, and so she's gonna work around that too.
That's great. Anyone, I think Canvas closes on Tuesday. I don't expect any results to change. Everyone comfortable with Ms. Kreitzer reaching out to, any new board members, post-certification schedule us? Great. Be in touch.
And
Um,
then I updated the fact sheet in your packet. This is always part of your budget presentation. So the fact sheet is updated in there with our newest numbers in terms of the enrollments and all of our key statistics.
Thanks for that. So I just want to mention on the school budget calendar that one of the things that, so I believe in advocacy as it relates to the school budget and having open communication with the Board of Supervisors. Part of the difficulty during the budget season is that both bodies meet multiple times a month on Wednesdays, and there are definitely some days where we can't be in two places at once. We'll deal with this in January, but I'll urge colleagues to consider moving schedules about so that we don't have overlapping. I think being transparent, open, and communicative as it relates to the needs of the school is important, and we just can't do it if they're meeting while we're meeting. A good example is tonight. Obviously, it's a work session, but we can't be there if we're here. So I hope that we'll consider that in January so that we can continue our partnership with the Board of Supervisors.
And I do want to point out that on 12/6, the superintendent does a preliminary budget focus to the Board of Supervisors at 7 o'clock. Just a couple other or at least one other thing I want to mention is I got excited the other day because I got VRS rates and they were down 2%. And I was like, woo-woo. And then I found out there's this whole system that they're doing with hybrid employees, and we pay that flat rate for them, but then we also pay any of the supplementals to their plans. And so with all of that math, I'll be analyzing how many of your employees are hybrid versus plan 1 or plan 2. And then basically those people could cost you another 3% than the advertised rate. And I say that to you because probably what you're going to hear out there is that the VRS rate for teachers dropped 2%. It did and it didn't is my answer to you. So when we hear that, because 2% of your payroll is a lot. And I was like, ooh, we could give a raise and it really wouldn't even cost that much because we're getting this. But no, so I'll be working on that calculation. It's not going to be an easy one to try to figure all of that out. And we have it's partly defined on how many of your employees contribute extra to VRS, which is a good thing because that makes their retirement more stable. We have about 80% of our employees that do that. So that means our share of that goes up, but I'm told that there's this actuarial where that means your base rate will go lower, but it also means that we might not know what our rates are until very close to the end of the budget cycle. So just keeping an eye on all of that.
Any news from Richmond as it relates to projected increases for employee pay?
I haven't heard anything any different than what we heard. Bass was at, the Virginia Superintendents Association was advocating for 5%. That's all I've heard. I don't know if you've heard anything any different. And I have your list of things that I'm working on.
Yeah, so we had a meeting last month where we went kind of in depth as it relates to priorities for the budget. We scope broad and work our way down. Obviously, we'll have other additional considerations, and Mr. Pullen, I don't think we got a ton from you yet, but this is a moving target as we get closer to really getting in the weeds on the budget. But we'll be happy to include other things, so I don't want to make your list longer, but it'll change as we go.
Well, if there's something I can work on ahead of time, I'm certainly happy to do that so that we have all the information in front of us when we meet, so we can make good decisions.
as much as I enjoy fact checking you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we are on to G, student representative to the board.
So board members, this is something that was brought up before, and it's basically just for you to consider and have discussion. You have a policy that enables it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about it. I think in the past, maybe you've had a student board member. Am I right about that?
Yeah. We have, in recent years, it did change. We didn't see the same student twice in a row. And I don't know what the selection process was, but could you describe what the existing policy is?
Well, the existing policy has the principal nominating students, and these are students who you have writing a 100-word essay. You can see it if you could just go down a little bit, Mr. Gifford.
Dr. Stribling
Sorry.
driving currently.
Dr. Stribling, up, I need to see the paragraph above that.
Josh is the navigator.
A little more. So students submit a, thank you, 100-word essay on why they'd like to be appointed as a student board member. It says they're in good standing. It doesn't define what that means. I would say probably that has to do with academics and discipline, but good standing at the high school, so it's a high school student. And then specifically, the principal nominates students, and from those nominations, the superintendent would select somebody to present to you. This has them serving a 1-year term. In the past, I mean, I've seen situations like this. What you may want to consider is, well, whether or not you want to continue the essay. I'm not suggesting it's a bad idea. A lot of boards don't do that. Other boards will have a rotation that's more than once a year to give more students the opportunity to do it. So it may be one per semester, for example. You may want to have the principal select a certain number of students, say 4, from which to choose from, as opposed to just saying that they're nominated. But those are all things you can discuss. And if you've done this before with this policy and it worked well for you, there's no reason to change it. But this is on the agenda at your request to discuss.
Board members, how would you like to proceed?
And I'm sorry, Dr. Kelly, just to point out, it's in the policy, but the student is here in an advisory capacity. They don't vote, and they're not privy to closed session items. And typically, I'm sure you did, if you have a board meeting that goes past a certain amount of time, you'd probably excuse the student to.
In the past, they left after they did their presentation.
Okay. Do it that way as well.
Thoughts on whether you would like to see this policy again for revision, or whether you would like it to be effectively reenacted? Re-implemented?
I don't have a problem with it the way it is.
Yeah, I'd like to see it reenact.
So could we ask you then to get the process started, and let's see if we can't get a student seated with us come January to give a little time for implementation and the change of a semester?
Sure.
Does that work for everyone else?
I'd just like to suggest that if it works better for the student and the board to have a rotation of representatives as we've had in the past, that's also perfectly fine with me. It sort of felt like a punishment after a while.
For the student?
For the kid, yeah.
We're feeling quite different, so we'd like to see representation, and to the extent that it can be enacted this way, great, and if we need a rotation, awesome.
Well, when you say rotation, do you mean rotating more than once per year?
But I think Ms. Johnson was indicating it's a bit laborious for the,
That's fine. You just would need to amend this.
so we would
policy.
need to revise if we want to allow for some kind of rotation.
Even in the past, we always had a different one every month. So,
Yeah, I think that
and
was.
it goes long, like your meetings go 10 or 11 o'clock. Most of the students would get up and leave, they'd have to excuse themselves 8:30 or 9 because they had things to do and get ready for the next day.
What if we just change the student representatives serve a 1-year term? How about up to a 1-year term? And that way it leaves it to the students and the board and the principals to figure out what's gonna work best at that time.
Renod, so why don't we make that revision and adopt in December? Consider this a first read.
That gives everybody a lot of leeway, but you could still have one student for the entire year.
I think what you did towards the end of the last time you had student representatives was basically the Student Government Association took turns coming, which is where you saw that rotation. And I mean, it wasn't a policy, but I think what was decided at that time was instead of having the 100-word essay, that the student government kids have been elected by their peers to represent them. And so it made sense to have them be the person that was here. I'm not saying you have to do that again, but I think that's where you saw that change, where you saw rotation. And then I think amongst themselves, they were like, hey, I have a game tonight, I can't go, you know, can you go? And so that's kind of where some of that came.
So to that end, I'd suggest we change the word must submit a 100-word essay to may submit. And that gives everybody a lot of choice.
Sounds good.
So we'll see from that. We'll see some revisions and adopt in December and ask that we see a representative in January if it's feasible. And if not, I'm sure February is great too. Alrighty, 11A, unfinished business. Board members, do you have any unfinished business tonight? All right, 12A, new business.
Do I bring up that some of us did go look at the bathrooms at Central, just for information purposes.
Great, what do you think?
It's in rough shape. You went too, right?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Yep.
Yep, hopefully that'll be funded and get started before too long.
If you happen your way to the middle school or the high school, I'd encourage you all to check out the tracks and the turf. Every time I see the middle school track, I'm a bit ashamed of it and worry about safety. So that's those are all on a pretty loaded list here, but clearly the bathrooms are in use every day. Thanks for that. So we're on to action items. First up is approval of the VSBA policy updates. And so these are policies that we saw last month, as is our standard. We will see some policy updates and then come back and vote on them, such that the list that we had this month will be in action items next.
Move we approve the Fluvanna policy updates listed on the agenda for this evening's action items.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on these two? These largely are semantic and dealing with sick leave and the way that we deal with that, as discussed at length last meeting. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was 5-0, but any nays? 5-0. We're now on to the approval of the classroom observation policy.
I move to approve the classroom observation policy.
A second.
Right, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 5-0, that is approved. We're now on to the approval of the BDEQ Stormwater Management Facility Maintenance Agreement.
So board members, with this, we've been contacted today that your legal representation wants to look at this again. And so I would just ask that you defer action on this until next month. Dr. Stribling, anything you feel like you need to add to that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just since it's here, can I have a motion to defer if you're so inclined?
I'll make a motion, we defer till further study.
Right? Any discussion? All those in favor of deferring, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We will see this again. And then D, approval of the establishment of community representatives to serve on the Learning Resource Review Committee. Please remember that our guidance to the administration is to then send out something so people can volunteer accordingly. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the policy changes that enable us to establish a community representative to serve on the Learning Resource Review Committees.
Is there,
I'll second that.
thank you so much. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We have a new committee. Sorry, that's 5-0. We are now on to our second round of public comments. Just as before, we invite members of the community, including staff, those who live in Fluvanna, who have business in front of our board, et cetera, to come forth and be heard. We ask you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less, and to provide your name and address, and gentle reminder to treat one another with respect. Would anyone like to come forth and be heard? Seeing none, I'm gonna close our second round of public. Oh, please. I apologize, I just didn't see intent.
I'm gonna sort you know what they say. I hadn't planned on speaking, but I'm a relatively new resident in the community. My name is Catherine Jenkins Jones. I'm also a participant in the FLGP. And what brought me here actually is I worked in the public school system in another state for 10 years, over 10 years, until my school was closed by that city. And because I have family here in history, ancestrally here in the state I came. And one of the things I'm involved in now actually is with the Central Virginia Community Justice Organization, which actually does restorative justice. One of the statistics that I learned in getting involved in that organization is that folks who have a conflict or a crime that results in them calling the police, and then they proceed with criminal, the normal criminal pathway. When they find out that restorative justice is an option, over 90% of them opt for that. In light of that, I was just struck, sir. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Please
I
don't,
can't address.
please don't address
Excuse
particular
me,
board
thank you
members.
for reminding.
Thank you.
But I guess I would encourage further discussion and exploration of the topic among the board. I think if it's good enough for people who have been victim of a crime and are involved in this criminal justice system, is worth exploring further for our young people. And personally, in my experience as an educator, it yields powerful results that go well beyond the incident that leads to the necessity for a process, and can really be transformative for not just the students, but for a whole class or even a whole school community. So that's all I wanted to say. My apologies for forgetting about the rule. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. Please, Mr. Anderson.
I'm Eric Anderson, Cunningham District. A couple of quick comments on the Educational Review Committee's proposal. Doing something like this, setting it up as a standing committee with roughly once a month meetings as needed, seems perfectly reasonable. And people should understand that we won't respond to things immediately because the committee has to review the materials. That's a sort of a thing that we do all the time in other academic institutions. The question about sort of immediately responding to it by yanking stuff off the shelves, I don't think that's a good idea, because we can get a lot of trivial requests that get all sorts of good materials pulled. until there's time to review, and we'll go through this perpetual cycle where nothing's on the shelves. If a parent requests that their student not have access to material, I'm perfectly fine with that being granted immediately. If a parent requests that no student have access to the material, then the committee needs to do a review. And then my last comment on this is, it seems a little odd to have it set up by district with each person only allowed to appoint someone from within their own district. We actually want people on this committee who are serious about it, who will read the materials and think about it seriously. Andre lives a quarter mile away from me, but we're in different districts. He couldn't ask me to serve on this committee, and that seems sort of an unreasonable restriction. If you want to have one nominee by each board member or something, that's fine, but the geographical constraints, it's not like a planning committee where actually being in a location is important. What's being important is being willing to grapple with the material in a serious way. So that's just another thing to think about as you try to constitute this committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to come forth and be heard? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close the second round of public comments. We're now on to school board member comments. Hearing none, we'll move forward. I have communicated enough this evening. We have some informational items in your packet. I will say that I appreciate the FLVP class being here, as well as other members of the community. We thank you for your attendance and for putting up with average length meeting tonight. And you'll be happy that the next item is adjournment. May I have a motion?
I move we adjourn for the evening.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you so much. It's okay. On with brevity.
I get it.